right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to
What's
Crossing
up?
Streams. We just made it.
So sorry, my fault.
No, you're all good. Let's you guys do the theme song while I figure out some of this social stuff.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Go ahead, Ron.
Here's the story. Some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob, and there's Marcy. They call it Crossing Streams.
Go ahead, Ron.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed those streams. Here we go. We crossed the streams.
We crossed the streams.
Oh,
That's the way we do it here. We cross the streams.
It's actually better with three.
That was didn't blow out. Didn't blow out at all. The dog was there. Tried to coordinate some stuff. What's up? Welcome everybody to Crossing the Streams, where we answer the universal question: what should I binge watch next? I just watched something, and now I got to watch something else. Well, you come to the right place. We have over 117 hours of live streaming suggestions on our YouTube channel, soon to have 118 hours, all waiting for you there. Multiply that by at least 4 per episode. That's a lot. That's a lot of avoid your family time. Man. So what else we got? So this is good. Oh, so were you guys fascinated with Titan by any chance? I was
I didn't catch it. Tell us about it.
You didn't listen? The Titan, the one that went to the Titanic? You missed it?
So I tell us something more about it. I mean, I caught just some clips about it, and I know they all died. But tell us what you think.
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think anyone with a lot of money is allowed to do whatever they want to do. I went to the Dave Matthews Band last night, and there's some people that might be at home going, "Why would you spend his money on the Dave Matthews Band?" Nice. And they have their right to think that, right? So,
hey, they bought the ticket. I say let them drown.
Oh, I see what you did there, Marcy. That was from Airplane.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
I think I would never go into a boat or a submarine that was not certified or third party anything and go down deeper than anybody. Whales go down. The Titanic's what, 24,000 feet? Whales, like certain whales, don't go below 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah, I think it's like 12,000 feet. It's 2 miles.
12,
2 miles and
okay,
change.
so but the whales go like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's
right?
crazy.
And so
it's
it's crazy to think like if normal, like pressure on your body is like 14 pounds per square inch, and they basically went down there and had where they were, I think 4,000. So the hard part was I was driving home from a conference while they were doing the press release. So this is when they found the wreckage. They knew they were dead at this point.
My brother just chimed in that they did recover the bodies. I did hear that. Actually, that was on Twitter. Is it true? I don't even know if it's true.
I don't even know how that could be true from a physics point of view, but maybe. I thought they got pieces of the boat.
Yeah. I think that I recovered the bodies, I think, is kind of a relative term. I think they got chunks of stuff is my guess, but
they should leave something behind. So in maybe 50 years, I'd spend maybe $400,000 and go look at their wreckage.
Right.
My understanding is that, well, first of all, a lot of people understood them to be gone immediately. And so the fact that they were looking for days, I was listening to James Cameron talk, to which somebody was like, "What? Just because you made a movie about a boat?" And I'm like, and I DM'd that guy privately because I didn't want to go at him on Facebook. But I'm like, dude, James Cameron is like the one of the world-renowned experts on diving to the Titanic. The man's been there 33 times in a boat he made himself. So, yeah, he knows something about this. He didn't just make a movie about a boat that sank. Anyway, so he's like, when they said that I don't remember the words, but like when the first thing went out and the tracking device went out at the exact same time, he goes, game over. He goes, it was impossible. And they knew that immediately, like on Sunday. And so the horrible kind of imagery that they would show, which was basically like the picture just crushing a can. And they say it happened so fast you wouldn't, you know how like if you're falling and you know for a second you're falling, they wouldn't have even had that second. I mean, it's like, now
Good.
Mike Reese, who was on The Simpsons, who actually was on my podcast, actually was on the Titan. He was on the Titan, one of the previous other dives down. And so I listened to him being interviewed as well.
Yeah.
His wife is the big adventurer. And apparently they were about to get on and she got tested for COVID and she didn't even go on.
Oh, I saw something about that. There were two people that were supposed to go on that
Not
last
this one.
minute.
It was the last.
It was the last one.
It was
Okay.
a successful trip.
Got it.
I think there was
Well,
at least 2 successful trips.
So I saw something about how one of the guys who died, I guess who owned the company that owned this thing, had with that same craft had gone down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, which is like twice as deep as the Titanic. So it's not that they never tested the thing and it just couldn't, thrive under that kind of pressure. They had gone actually twice as deep, or something significantly more deep than the Titanic, the deepest part of the ocean, actually. But I don't know. Something catastrophic happened.
Well, I
obviously.
think what they didn't take into consideration is the wear. So yes, it could go one time or 2 times or 3 times, but then it was done. Then that 4th time or whatever time this was, it couldn't take it anymore because it had been kind of worn down.
I think you're right. Someone's got a question for Marcy. I don't know if you're seeing that in the
I do.
Messi or Ronaldo.
I don't know what this is, but do we even know what this means?
Messi or Ronaldo? Messi or Ronaldo,
Yes.
the soccer players.
The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So
It's usually hot. Okay, go on. Yeah.
So Jeff, can I switch subjects for 1 second? Did you see? I don't know if this was real or not, but did you see Elon Musk challenged Mark Zuckerberg to a cage match?
Yeah.
Do you know who's put a stop to it? Who would put a stop to that?
Who? Jeff Bezos?
Nope. Elon's mommy. 100%. She put a stop and she was like, what's going to happen if you lose?
So
and she
first
was
off,
right. And
was he
a
serious?
fighter, Mark Zuckerberg. He is a jiu-jitsu professional fighter. This guy doesn't just sit around creating more metaverse. He is.
He's going
to become the ultimate fighter.
And maybe it's just me. I don't know how much money I would be willing. All the money I have, I'd be willing to pay for that pay-per-view to see Bezos and
Zuckerberg
Elon and Zuckerberg fight each other. How unbelievably fantastic would that be?
I believe Zuckerberg would kick his.
He would kick his ass.
I don't know. Elon's crazy.
You
don't want to fight. You don't want to fight crazy people.
I think he literally is just starting to take lessons right now in jiu-jitsu.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I'm not saying it correctly, but you know what I'm talking.
Jiu-jitsu.
Listen, I have a question for Ozcock90. Oh God, can we delete that guy?
We run that back.
Right. Don't you know she's going to read anything you put on the teleprompter?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
What do we like better, this or this?
I like
the other one better.
Oh, so we differ.
This one?
Yeah, I like that one better.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, we'll do this. We'll do
Whatever.
this one for a little bit. All right. We got some fun stuff to talk about. But what did we talk about last week? Last week we talked about my father, jury duty, platonic. Oh yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, we took a couple weeks off. And unsolved mysteries, bodies and bags. I don't even know how I remember that. Bob had a thing to do, so we'll cover American Murder, The Family Next Door another time. I don't even know if that's the right Wildflower. There was a lot of Wildflower.
It is. It is.
Okay, fabulous. And then Waco and Superman the movie.
Ooh.
Superman the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
I know.
The good old Superman back in the day. Superman.
Back in the day, Superman.
Nice.
Who's doing Superman the movie? Was that Bob or was it?
I am.
And you're doing
Yeah.
it. Fantastic.
So
I actually have.
Yeah, I just watched it again. Okay, let's kick off with Waco. What do you say?
So El Apocalipsis Texano. That is so the wrong graphic, Jeff, but that's all right. You know, here
Is that
and
the right
actually,
one?
no, not at all. But that's all right. Actually, that kind of
a
segues
cool
perfectly,
one,
perfectly into my discussion, which is, this is one of the top trending documentaries on Netflix right now. In fact, I think at one point it was number one. And what's interesting is if you type in Waco documentary, your Google will blow up because there's like a dozen different documentaries on the whole Waco siege, which was a fascinating moment back in the day. I just so it makes it all the more interesting that Netflix bought this American documentary series, which is a 3-part mini series that makes it interesting that they thought there was still original content here that would be valuable and interesting to their to their payers, to their subscribers. So first off, this is directed by a guy named Tiller Russell, who, as far as I can tell, I did my research, I can't find anything that this person has ever directed before, so I don't know where they found this guy. What I also liked about this particular documentary is that there's no dramatic reenactment. This was just straight legit documentary where they intersperse overlaid narration to actual footage. And that's one of the things that's really cool about not that there's something cool about people dying, but one of the interesting things I'll just say about Waco is that they've got so much original footage from the siege. I mean, this thing went on for more than a month, and people don't realize that this was an extensive, absolutely unprecedented 51-day standoff between the Branch Davidians and the FBI and ATF. I think what Netflix saw that made this so interesting wasn't so much that all these people died, and it's another cult, drama. People love hearing about cults, and I think that's anytime. I mean, for me, I'm fascinated about anything with Mormons or anything to do with sex cults, and any of those things I'm sold on. But this was not that. This was more of a kind of a modern Christian type of organization that were trying to kind of live on their own in West Texas. And so, but here's what's interesting is this documentary spends a lot of time discussing the inadequacies of communication between the federal government and its agencies. And what it comes down to is that the ATF, which originally had gone in there to remove what they estimated to be 1 million rounds of ammunition that this guy and his cohorts had stored there. They had guns, legal and otherwise. They had mass amounts of detonation type materials, bombs and whatnot. They had rocket propelled grenades. They had sniper weapons. They had 50 caliber type, heavy machine guns that could penetrate armor. I mean, they were ready for a war, these guys, and all they wanted, not to put any defense of the Branch Davidians, they just wanted to be left alone. But you can't do that when you don't pay your taxes. And so if you don't pay your taxes, the government gets a little snippy. And if it also happens that you don't pay your taxes and you have 1 million rounds of ammunition that are illegal, someone's going to come knocking. And that's really what it came down to. So ATF came knocking. These guys were ready. They were tipped off completely accidentally. Somebody who shouldn't have been where they should have been was a Branch Davidian that heard about the ATF coming, was able to wire or call David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, and sure enough, they were completely ready for the ATF, and multiple ATF federal agents died in the original intent to disarm the Branch Davidians. Then begins the rest of the story, which is a series of blunders between the ATF and the FBI and the federal government, all the way up to the White House, making mistake after mistake after mistake of communication about who's in charge, about who is authorized to do what with what means. It became a series of federal blunders. All the while, David Koresh was frankly negotiating in good faith to surrender to the federal agents. So listen, again, I'm no David Koresh apologist. The man was a flat out maniac. But this did not have to end the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what this thing examines. The main reason why it ended the way it did is because David Koresh and his people no longer believed anything the government said, and with good reason. The government lied over and over. Things that they had promised didn't come true. Things that they hadn't promised happened. Like as an example, for no reason whatsoever, while the ATF was in the midst of negotiation, the FBI brought out a tank and basically just rolled over David Koresh's cars, like his fancy collectible cars. Why did they do that? Just to piss him off. But it was in the midst of a direct negotiation with ATF. So it's like, the documentary is very, what's the right word? It's very critical. I'll just say that, of the federal agencies. Now, is that the intent, to have you watch this 3-part series and come away saying, wow, this government's really screwed up? Maybe it is. I don't know. But it is fascinating to watch the discussions that happen. Here's another interesting little nugget. Did you know that David Koresh was shot in the original siege of Waco and went the whole 51 days with a bullet in his abdomen, with infection and whatnot, and was still able to kind of hold his group together while this all went down. So, listen, I don't know if you guys are into these kinds of documentaries, or kind of learning about things that, from my standpoint, things that could have been avoided, particularly governmental things that could have been avoided. This might be your type of documentary. It's very well done. It's quick. It's straight to the point. It's not a bullshit kind of documentary. There's nothing to argue with, because it pulls straight from the actual communications with the Branch Davidians and the government, and you're left to kind of make your own decision about what could have been done better, and how this whole thing could have been avoided. This Richard Roper from Chicago Sun-Times, I think said about this documentary. I think he said it really well. It's impossible to satisfy everyone and nail down every single essential truth. But it does a great job of giving a voice to the story from a myriad of sides, which is interesting. So I remember Waco very, very well. Do you guys remember it? Do you guys remember it going down?
I'm not sure.
I do, but I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember David Koresh.
I know the story. I've seen the other shows.
Yeah, David Koresh. That's right.
Yeah.
And it was in 1993. So I don't know where you guys were in 1993. Me, I was an idiot out of college. So, but I remember paying attention to this, because I remember thinking, wow, that's a lot of federal agents who just got shot. There's one particular widely seen viral video of an ATF agent on the roof, and all you see are just bullets just flying into the building, like making holes right above his head, like 3 or 4 in a row. And you see him kind of like scurrying down the roof. Otherwise, he's about to get shot. But super interesting documentary. I highly recommend it. Easy watch, 3 parts. So check it out. I think you guys will enjoy it.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, but it was very interesting.
It is. A lot of kids died. A lot of kids died.
Did they have the footage of the parents who had family in there that they were like, don't hurt them, or get out of there?
They did, and they also, here's another little blunder, that it was bad enough that the people who voluntarily walked out of the Branch Davidian compound were summarily arrested, even though they were promised that they wouldn't be arrested. That's bad enough. But what's really bad is that they arrested these people like out in public and on TV, so that people in the Branch Davidian compound were able to watch people who were promised exoneration get arrested. So now it's like, it's like nobody believes anything that the government says, and it's terrible. And a lot of them went to jail before even the siege happened. They gave themselves up, and they still were arrested. So it's not a good look for the government. I'm just going to say that. It's just really, listen, I mean, we can't be great at a lot of things. Maybe we're not very good at very many things. I don't know, but
Was it one of
this
those things that happened on 420? Was it was it April 20th? Was that the date that the siege? I mean, I feel like that was that not a day? For some reason, I feel like it was a 420 thing. There's a list of.
I don't know the actual date. That's an
I'll
interesting
Google.
question. I can
Google
go check it out. And because there's multiple dates, right? There's
There's
the date of the original siege when
Yeah.
all the federal agents got killed. And then there's the date of when you see the video of the whole thing burning down and basically them killing
Don't give away
themselves.
all the spoilers.
Right. So
all right, that was all right. Great. So I will check that out. We'll check out.
Please
check
do.
out Waco.
American Apocalypse.
Not the one I put up.
Not the one you put up. American Apocalypse.
That one I saw.
All right, let's talk about Wildflower.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but remember when we were a lot younger in the summertime, shows stopped and we didn't really watch a lot of TV because it was sunny and nice and the sun stayed out. And we watched like nature grow. So I had to find a movie to watch and I chose Wildflower. I had never heard of it. I literally just grabbed my remote and started scrolling. I just went like Hulu, and I had my choices of streaming channels and Wildflower came up. Have you heard of it before?
I have not.
No.
I had not either. And I just basically pressed play when I saw the cast. It is a really good cast. Jean Smart is in it, and I just absolutely love her. So she probably just right out of the gate, I was like, I love Jean Smart. But let me just go through what this is about. It is based on a true story, although I think it said in the movie that it's based on true events. And it is about a high school teenager, a girl named B, who is in a coma at the beginning of this movie. She's in the hospital. There's worried family, and she narrates her story while she's in this coma. And you really don't know why, but she starts telling her story. She is the daughter of two mentally disabled, intellectually disabled parents. And they are played by, so Ray Donovan's Bunchy, who is, what's his name? Dash Mihawk or something. Did you guys watch Ray Donovan?
I haven't
So
seen it. No.
I did watch the first season of Ray Donovan. Great show.
Wow. The first season. Okay. It is a really great show. But anyway, Bunchy, the guy who plays Bunchy, this Dash, he's very good. I was a fan of his character on Ray Donovan. So he plays the father. And I didn't know who the mother was. Her name was Sharon. We're talking Sharon and what was his name? I don't even remember what his name was. And I did not write it down. Anyway, the father, when he was 12 years old, got hit by a drunk driver, closed head injury. Basically, his brain stops being developed at 12. Sharon, just her brain didn't develop all the way. And they end up falling in love and having a baby and say, hey, we can do this. So it's about this girl who is very intelligent and wonderful and helps take care of them and how they raised her. And it's a really fun, light, interesting movie. We've got Brad Garrett is married to Jean Smart. They're the grandparents. They're the the mother and father of Sharon. So the two of them are really comical. They're super funny. And Jackie Weaver, do you know who she is? She plays the paternal grandmother, and I don't know what movie she was in, but just trust me, she's hilarious herself. So they have this baby. They name her Bambi. Because it's the mom's favorite movie. So throughout the movie, they call her B. And it's not easy being a kid in school when your parents are mentally disabled because kids are horribly cruel. And so she has to get through all these obstacles. Of course, they don't have a lot of money because they can't really keep jobs and, their jobs don't pay a lot. But she grows up to start becoming their parent. And then, comes time for college and all that. But in the meantime, like I said, it starts out in a coma and there's a reason why she's there. And there's a social worker involved. And it's just, it ends with a really warm, fuzzy feeling. Like I said, it was short and light and I enjoyed it. If you're bored, I would recommend it. I would not tell you not to watch it. It was enjoyable.
What network is this?
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu, and
It's on
is it a
Hulu.
single episode or is it?
It is just a movie. It is a movie.
It's
It's
a
an
movie, got
hour
it.
and 45 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And who else is in it? So I just finished Mrs. Maisel finally, but the gentleman who he did the talk show with her that fires her or whatever.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking about? What's
Gordon,
his name?
Ford.
Gordon. Yes.
Gordon
So
Ford,
he's in the gentleman who plays Gordon Ford is in it.
He's cool. I like him.
Yeah, actually, he's been doing. He's been in a lot, but so he's in it, and I don't. Do you guys ever watch Mr. Show with Bob and Dave?
Way back, I've seen some.
You've not seen the whole series?
No.
They do a short movie called Why Me? The Bob LaMonta story. I've probably seen it 100 times. It is kind of like this movie that I saw, except extremely inappropriate and awful and hilarious. So like the whole movie, I was watching this and I'm just like, oh gosh, this just reminded me of Mr. Show and Bob and Dave. So I did watch that today. I'll send it to you guys. I'll send you guys the link so you guys can watch that. It's only like 7 minutes tops. This movie's an hour and 45 minutes. One's cute and light and, you know, not really funny. And the other one is hilarious. But anyway, that was Wildflower. It was enjoyable. You know, a nice family movie.
So let me ask you this. I don't know that I've ever watched a movie on Hulu. I've only watched a series on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to deal with commercials with a movie?
I pay for no commercials.
So yeah, I didn't realize you were so rich.
I am fancy. I'm thinking about. No, I was gonna say I was gonna go look at the Titanic, but that joke is so old. No, Hulu with no commercials. I typically pay for no commercials. I hate commercials.
My take on that, just my own personal experience, but I don't feel like there's enough content on Hulu for me to for it to merit paying Hulu for more for no commercials. That's just my opinion.
That's okay.
Yeah,
you enjoy those commercials.
I shouldn't have to see commercials.
True.
That is very true. Where do I see commercials on Paramount? I think.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm using someone's password, so it's not my choice.
Netflix is listening. They're
Oh
did you hear Netflix? Sorry, digression, but Netflix had their best month ever this past month. Did you see it financially? Did you see that?
No,
because of they canceled so many passwords.
It hasn't even affected us.
Because
has anyone with your password not been watching?
I don't know. So we haven't done that, but
I don't give my password away.
Oh my God,
right. So many people have upped for actual subscriptions rather than stealing passwords that it had a huge impact on Netflix revenue last month.
Oh my God, I have a network of passwords.
Oh my gosh, you terrible person! You're not saying this live on the air, are you?
It's let them come after me. I was the one who brought down Napster.
Yeah. How do you feel about paying your taxes? Are you good on that?
Paying taxes?
Yeah. Never mind.
That's for losers.
Don't answer that.
Because I'm smart. Something like that. I don't know.
Got it.
I don't pay taxes.
Funny. You guys are hilarious. Okay, my turn. Okay, so let's talk about Superman the movie. We're talking about Superman the movie.
To really pull that out of the recesses of your mind there.
Have you got? I just rewatched it. Have you guys? Well, you know, there's a lot of talk with the reboot of the DC, and specifically they just recast. Speaking of Miss Maisel, she's the new Lois Lane, so they just recast the new Superman movie, Superman Legacy, for James Gunn. But have you guys? Do you have fond memories of this movie? I mean, you've seen it, right?
Loved.
So great.
This movie, and I've always been of the camp where I thought Superman 2 was like the greatest movie ever. I loved Superman 2.
With the three of them?
With the three of them. And so, you know, there's a lot of interesting backstory with the Superman movie in that, you know, this is 1978. We take it for granted now that all these big actors, you know, do these superhero movies. But in 1978, that just wasn't the case, you know? And so here they are, they announced, the Salkinds announced, we're going to do Superman. And it gets everyone's attention because they're like, oh, we're doing Superman with, wait for it, Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman. Oh, and you know the guy that wrote The Godfather, Mario Puzo? He's writing the script. Okay. And that was just the starters of it, right? And so then they get Ned Beatty, Jackie Ford, Glenn Ford, Margot Kidder, Jack O'Halloran, Terrence Stamp, Jeff East, Sarah Douglas. I mean, like, it's a who's who of everybody is in this movie. It's a huge, huge cast. Almost like you would think it was made today. But so it was directed by Richard Donner, and there's a whole story there as well in terms of how Richard Donner, by the way, went on to do what? Lethal Weapon, The Goonies. I mean, like a million, Scrooged, which is one of my favorite, So anyway, so many. Richard Donner is like renowned as like one of the best directors ever of all time. So this is the other interesting thing about the Superman movie is Mario Puzo and Donner were filming Superman 1 and 2 at the same time. That's why it's such a cohesive, story, or at least most of it is cohesive that goes between those two movies. Richard Donner shoots Superman 1, finishes it. He actually has 75% of Superman 2 done, and they fire him. Okay. And so they bring in Richard Lester to finish directing Superman 2, which you may have heard there's an infamous Donner cut of Superman 2 where they went in and recreated a lot of the some of the scenes that he had intended or pulled from the archives and all that kind of stuff. If you rewatch Superman 2, Marlon Brando, who was in Superman 1, isn't in Superman 2, though your memory may have put him in there, because in the beginning, it's his hand, but it's a hand double. They didn't want to pay to have him in Superman 2 and pay him all the millions. He made like over $10 million, $3 million for the shoot, Marlon Brando, and everything had to be done right in the beginning. And he never learned any of his lines. It was all cue cards. And he got like a percentage. So he ended up making a small fortune off this movie.
Wow.
Like $1 bazillion in today's dollars. Think of $11 million in 1978. All right. So, so what is Superman? So this is the original. Oh, so what I was gonna say is I actually rewatched Superman and then I rewatched Superman 2, right? And I came away thinking like, wow, Superman is the superior movie. As a matter of fact, Superman holds up as I think one of the best kind of fantasy superhero movies of all time. It was really, really good. I mean, obviously the flying's a little stiff, but they were cutting edge at the time doing this. So, so that was cool. So Superman's about an alien orphan that is sent away from his dying planet and sent to Earth and is welcomed with open arms by everyone. So, just like today, if an alien were to come here with superpowers that could of godlike nature, he would be welcomed with open arms, similar to someone crossing one of our borders. So when you think of like the Man of Steel, Zack Snyder darker version of Superman, it's probably more in line with how people would treat a godlike creature that comes from another, that isn't of this earth, right? And could have supreme power. I mean, think about it, like how scared people are of people crossing the border, and they just want to work and make money so they can eat. So this is I'm simplifying the issue, right? But like this is like it's a godlike anyway. So but this is a fantasy, and I tell you, when the jokes of well, you just put on glasses and all of a sudden you don't recognize me type thing. But if you go rewatch the original Superman, I think he does it better in Superman than Superman 2. But Christopher Reeve is amazing. I mean, if you're really paying attention, just watching to watch, he really seems like a different person when he's Clark Kent versus Superman. Just the way he holds himself, his hair. I mean, go watch it. I know it's in your memory. You're like, don't be ridiculous, Jeff, but go watch it. You could see where like it's a completely different vibe and thing that he does. Now, should people have noticed? Perhaps. I mean, he's still pretty much the same looking face, but he does an amazing job of creating two personas based on what he's got. So anyway, so that was it. So this is an origin story. The original Superman, that they comes from Krypton, and they do all these things. He saves from the bomb. Stops a bomb. He does all the normal Superman things. There's not a lot of CGI and all that kind of stuff back then, so they couldn't do all these crazy things. But a lot of the amazing, interesting things about the Superman movie are just in the background of how it got made. The genius level is Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, who isn't even bald, which he is a bald character, isn't even bald to the last second of the movie when he goes to jail and he pulls off his wig. and he keeps just Gene Hackman is just so funny and brilliant in this movie. It really is great. So anyway, the whole plot of the movie is Lex Luthor buys up all the land in California, like the middle land of California, and then he's going to send a bomb to blow up the West Coast so that the West Coast goes into the ocean, and then leaving his land as the new coast.
So evil.
This is the dastardly plan. He's going to wipe out the expensive part of California using the San Andreas Fault, right? Oh, and then so Lois Lane dies in this movie. It's a little, there's some dark elements.
To turn the world around.
Yeah, she dies, and she doesn't just die. She dies a horrible death. Like she's like buried
she's crushed
in a car.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like they tell Superman one thing, and this is in the beginning, and they kind of reiterate later: do not mess with the events of human history. You know what I mean? Like he's only one real rule. And so but Superman, the problem with Superman that you realize, and it's even more so in Superman 2, but is that here's a guy that grew up, wasn't really allowed to interact too much, right? But was in love with Lana Lane the whole time. And then so now he's 18, and then spends 12 years learning. So he's in the Fortress of Solitude for 12 years. So when he comes out from Jeff East Clark Kent, who played him as a young Clark Kent, and he's now Christopher Reeve Superman, he flies away from the Fortress of Solitude. He's now 30. Can you imagine them going, hey, here's a Superman. He's just getting started at 30. That's like a sylph, a super, right? That's just old, right? So he's 30 and he's never been with a woman. So of course he's making these rash, horrible decisions because he's never been in love before. He's like,
it's like he just got out of prison.
Right, exactly. So it's like, so he reverses time and saves, makes it so Lois Lane lives, which is a hero. You have to think, but then what consequences did he happen because of that and all that kind of stuff?
She's a lucky girl.
He
messed with stuff. So I've got multiple comments. So first off, Bob actually stole my thunder for a second in the comments because I've been yelling Miss Tessmacher at my wife for 20 years. Whenever I need her, I yell Miss Tessmacher, and I scream it. The other thing I just will say, 1978. This is, you got to remember, this is also coming on the heels of the Star Wars franchise, right? And so I think the original Star Wars was 77, wasn't that right, Jeff?
Right.
Or 77. I remember very well going to this movie, the original Superman, in the theater. And I remember how, first off, the theater was completely packed. If you can recall the marketing of this movie, I mean, it was everywhere. Every screening of this was jammed. People were freaking out about Superman. And I remember being, I think it was at the Americana Theater in Southfield, Michigan. First off, freezing. I don't know why that theater was always freezing, but we were freezing, waiting for Superman to start, and then it started, and we were all just entranced by this movie. And I thought they did a great job. Not Clark Gable, what the hell? Marlon Brando, rather. I thought was amazing. I thought the first part of the movie, the whole series on Krypton, Jeff, I thought was beautiful and kind of amazing. Short though it was cool. I thought the rehashing of Marlon Brando in the Fortress of Solitude and him being able to ask questions, that whole sequence I thought was like, I've thought about that for years. I just think there are parts of this movie that totally hold up, and I agree with you entirely. I think it's a very well done movie. So I'm glad you picked it. Yeah, go ahead.
If you remember, did you just stream it on one of the channels?
I think it's on HBO
Max.
Yeah.
HBO. Okay. When he's a kid, when he pops out of the meteor hole, he just crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Is he 100% naked?
Yeah.
Okay, because there was a lot of controversy about that. They called it child pornography when they filmed him that young, this little kid. He gets out and he's totally naked.
Yeah.
And that was a huge deal. And I thought that they changed it. But you're saying, so when he did it, they still
totally
have
naked. And I met
totally
him as
naked.
an adult at the Motor City
Was he
Comic-Con.
also naked?
He was wearing clothes.
Oh, thank God. Good.
Yeah,
then it didn't really affect him.
No.
Yeah.
Good. Did you meet him at a comic thing?
There was a Motor City thing where they had like 5 of them. I got to go in and interview them. You can hear it on my podcast.
You're talking about the kid who played the little.
Yeah. His name's Aaron. His name's Aaron.
Has
and
he done
I
anything
met Jimmy
since?
Olsen and Ursula and Nan and it was pretty cool. But Miss Tessmacher is hilarious, and it's funny that the entire plot it was really funny. Like there's a scene where Lex Luthor kind of outsmarts Superman. Like Superman's not really playing the long game smart. He's too trusting, right? So he does an interview with Lois Lane, who only really asks him, "Do you eat?" But he gives away, "Oh yeah, I can't see through lead."
Right.
Maybe hold that close to your, your
not so strategic, are you, Clark?
Yeah, maybe don't, throw that out. And so, when Lex tricks him to come to his lair, and he's like trying to find it, and he's hiding the kryptonite when he goes, "Oh yeah, and our planet exploded." Right. And he tells him where, and then Lex figures it out and is able to determine that kryptonite's from his planet and that likely could be poisonous to him. And then they hide it in the lead and he go, "Lex, you couldn't hide it from me." And he opens it up and then he puts it on there. And then Lex says, "I've sent 2 bombs, one to California, to do his plan from earlier, and the other one to New Jersey." And then Miss Tessmacher is like, but Lex, my mom lives in New Jersey. So when Lex leaves, that's the reason Miss Tessmacher saves him, to save her mom first.
Yeah.
And then she goes and he goes and then Lois ends up dying, but then he spins it backwards. But yeah. So,
I loved it when I saw it in the theater and 100 other times on Betamax. I saw it on VHS and I need to stream it. That's one of those movies you don't stop watching when you see it's on at any point in the movie, right? You can just stop and watch that. It is a great movie.
Yeah. Ned Betty's great in it too.
He really is.
There's a scene where Lex is telling Superman his plan, and he's like, he's renamed all the coasts after him.
Yes,
and then in black marker it says Otisville. And he's like, "Otisville?" it's like
Otisville.
It's written in Sharpie by hand, and it's just so funny. The other kind of funny thing, which is Larry Hagman, is when Valerie Pirelli is laying down as a blonde bombshell, and then Larry Hagman is there, and he's like, "Well, she needs mouth to mouth." "No, boys, I'll do it. I would never ask you to do something I wouldn't be willing to do myself." And it was just like, some of that was the only joke that maybe a little questionable, but but funny. John Ratzenberg's in this. He's in the Missile Command, and then it's a lot of cool stuff. But it's the drama behind it. They originally wanted Spielberg, but he went on to Close Encounters. Brando ended up suing them for money, and that's why he's not in Superman 2. And so there's all this drama, and it all started with the Salkinds just wanting to save some money, firing Donner, all that kind of stuff. So I recommend checking it out if you're disenchanted with the current superhero movies.
I am.
Go back to the original. Go back to the original blockbuster that kind of set the tone for
I,
everything.
I just want to go back real quick to what you were saying a moment ago about Gene Hackman, because I do think Gene Hackman was a brilliant villain in this movie. It was simple. I think he had fun with this because there is a lot of humor in Superman, which I appreciate. And I think the whole concept of superhero movies throwing humor into this, particularly Superman. And I have a lot of philosophical arguments about Superman versus every other superhero, but I'll save that for another time. But I think Gene Hackman played the part really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
And I just will say from a quotable, I have said this for a long time about how he did it to them. It means that you were out here while he was safe in there. And I have used that so many times in so many different situations. Oh, so you were out there while I was safe in here. It's there are so many quotable moments in that movie.
Right, that's from Superman 2. Superman 2 has the best ending quote of, I think, any movie when he gets his revenge on the bully and just goes, I've been working out.
Yeah.
That's Richard Donner in that scene. He's
interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good choice, Jeff. That's a nice callback. That's a lesson to all of us that you can call back some movies that had an impact on you. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. That was fun. Cool. That was a lot of goodness in this one episode. So Bob, we'll see you next time for sure. You got to get that American Murder in. Thanks to you guys. Say goodnight, Ron.
Yeah, good night, everybody. I'm not traveling for a couple more weeks, but I am heading up north this week. So see you on the other side of 4th of July.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
Say goodnight.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Have a great 4th of July. Everyone be safe.
Good night, everyone. Oh, and on my podcast this week is Gina Yashere, who's from Bob Hart's Abishola. But she's also going to be in Detroit, July 22nd at the Majestic Theater in Detroit. She's hilarious. She's huge in the UK. Everyone who
You
follows
going?
me, I'm gonna go. The everyone on my Twitter that's from the UK, very impressed. Was very impressed. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Nice.
she's huge there. She's huge. She's from there. Anyway, all right. Thanks, everybody. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and The Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.